Chapter 2, Harvest. Look not for lucid moments in your rapture. Don't search for hidden meaning in the truth. Play it how it comes to you. Learn from all you chance to do. The sages all were once but foolish youth. Don't build your dreams preconceived and etched in stone. Let it happen always as it will. Hold your values dear and close. No, don't desert your moral post, but don't be judge and jury yet and still. The time you have is precious and eternal. The moment ever is here and now. Relative from everything is every perspective. Seed and harvest only from the plow. The countryside swept past in shades of green and brown as I lounged in the passenger seat of a 2.5 army truck driven by an Arvin who had picked me up in Cu Chi. I was hitching back out to my fire support base with a lighter heart than when I had left. In the middle of Godaha, a bustling Vietnamese city of 80,000 on the Mekong River near the Cambodian border, which was where I was going, I stood mesmerized. My ride turned north toward Tay Ninh, and I felt my presence in its extremity. Suddenly I was alone at an intersection amidst a large afternoon crowd in an oriental marketplace. I experienced an inundation of Asian chaos standing in a city halfway around the world, hearing a language I couldn't understand, and discovering odors wafting forth that I had never smelled. Still, I felt free. I recognized that this was definitely a poignant moment in Poet's life. Donned in jungle fatigues, jungle boots, boonie cap, an M16, and various other overt and covert weapons, I felt slightly overdressed for the occasion. Even though my body moved easily and effortlessly through the throng as the world became my pasture, and I knew in my soul I was born to pursue places like this, foreign and exhilarating. Sometimes dangerous, but never boring. It was at this very moment that boredom became my sworn enemy. I was never again to refuse a chance adventure. The crowd thinned out as I made my way down Highway 1. Near the bridge, I caught a ride on top of a lambretta filled with cases of Coca-Cola. I shouted, "Papa-san, I go La Pienne," a small village about 50 yards from Fire Support Base Homer. La Pienne was an atypical border hamlet, friendlier than most due to its proximity to the fire support base. Papa-san nodded his head up and down emphatically as he responded, "Bick, Bick." 20 minutes later, we turned off the paved and potholed highway onto a dirt mud track that ran 9 miles to the Ville, about 2,000 yards from Cambodia. I relaxed a bit as it seemed I'd gotten lucky and caught a soda pop run back from the city. Unfortunately, luck had never been an ace in my hand often enough for me to count on. As Papa-san kept glancing at me and then at the rice paddies beside us, my alarm went off. I laid my 16 down and rolled on my side. Pulling out my Chi-Com pistol, with only 3 rounds in it, I rolled back and stuck it through the opening in the top of the lambretta. Prodding Papa-san's head with the muzzle, I yelled, "Didi Mao, go, go!" With fear in his eyes, he sped up. I scanned the area with practiced eyes, squinting for a trace of movement. Like my careless knot escapade in the Hershey tree, I blew it again. We hit a mine, and I flew through the air like a ruptured goose, cartwheeling and clawing the air. In slow motion, I flew 30 feet. Then in fast motion, I hit hard. It seemed I'd never learn to fly gracefully. No broken bones, but lots of stars. I laid there stunned, and I knew I was a VC's dream come true. Thankfully, I could crawl, and did so quickly. I've crawled a lot, and have gotten pretty good at it. I heard running feet as I stopped to listen. Searching my body, I found my broken VC dart gun, cheap bamboo, and 2 frags. Pulling the pin on one, I concentrated on the direction and range by sound. 5 seconds from release to detonation. Fuck it, better throw it now. I rose above the paddy as 2 VC were closing in. They fired simultaneously as I tossed the grenade. Only 3 feet apart, the enemy had grown careless, I thought, as I dove down, feeling a searing fire on my right shoulder. The explosion bit my ears, and I rose to throw again. No target. Maybe good, maybe not so good. Still light out, an hour till dark. Should I crawl cautiously forward and take a weapon if they're dead? Or die if they're not? Or should I get the hell out of here? Once again, my body acted without an impulse from my confused cognition. I was 10 feet away before the thought was done. Run, poet, run! As I fled on all fours, I knew I could crawl faster than some people run. Yep, I'm a born crawler. The AK round had only nicked my shoulder, but in a year I figured the VC could nick me enough times to scar me ugly. The paddy dyke loomed, and I scrambled over. Not hearing any gunshots, I turned to look behind me at puffs of sulfur hanging in the air with the tangible aura of death in limbo. Survival becomes the ruler of every instinct in your being, yet sadness can still touch your heart. Were you wounded in the war, Grandpa? No, son, but I got nicked a lot. The changes in a man are not complete until he acknowledges them in solitude and serenity. Render not judgment, rather understanding. Don't consume your own energy. It will make you prideful, selfish, and fat with greed. I asked myself if that was what I learned as I gazed into the waves breaking on the beach at Waimanalo. Maybe so, poet, among other things. The passage of time is the philosophy of hindsight, the balm of acceptance, the wisdom of experience. Yet it seems the more you learn, the more there is to know. 26 years old, no direction, no lasting satisfaction, restless, irresponsible, and fluid. I wonder why, poet? Sure, blame it on the Nam. That was 8 years ago, like a book I read a long time past. Not that big a deal to me anymore. No nightmares, no problems, no delayed stress syndromes. I live in Hawaii. I'm cool. Yeah, except for that undefined passion in your heart, that feeling of chasing the season that tingles in your bones, the shapes of reasoning your mind creates to manipulate the process of divesting your everyday situation when it becomes boring, or the nagging desire to get something done, though you don't know what, tugging at the spirit in your soul, caressing your energy, directing your fate. You're crazy. I do what I want when I want. My destiny is my choice. Well, of course it is, but when did you make the choice? In your eternal subconscious? Hell, I don't know. That's too deep. Leave me be. I'm poet. And still, you are a part of every moment that's ever been. Yeah. I crave excitement. Death is more like an awakening unto cosmic energy of being than a cause for mournful lament. I needed relief. The dragon was there. I needed a friend. The dragon was there. I needed escape. The dragon was there. The night grew hazy through my smoky mind, yet I always managed to assimilate order out of madness, if only for future reference. The sun rose torrid in the morning as if to inaugurate an angry day. I was nervous and edgy for no reason other than the norm. No soap, no cigarettes, no damn Hershey bar. But something intangible nudged my nerves. I felt vulnerable. We entered the village from the south. The populace responded automatically. They'd done it before. We searched for caches of weapons and food. As I entered the first hooch, a young Vietnamese girl, about 12 years old, scrambled suspiciously from the floor to the wall. I looked in her eyes and saw only hatred. VC for sure. I moved to the mat she had fled from as I kept my .16 aimed at her. I glanced, then kicked at the mat. She continued to glare in defiance. I knew the mat was hiding what she would kill or die for, and undoubtedly it wasn't even close to worth it. I shrugged and beckoned her toward the door with my gun. She looked confused, but responded. We walked outside, and I heard the pin as she pulled it, a faint rasping of metal across metal. Instinctively I dove to the side and rolled. The percussion pierced the morning's natural silence as shrapnel pierced my knee. That little girl hated me so much, she killed herself just to get me. If not for rusty VC weaponry, she would have. The explosion produced shouting, screaming, and total panic. Fortunately, order was restored quickly by the rest of the platoon as the medic cleaned and dressed my wound. He radioed evac for a dust-off. 10 minutes later, I was back in my least favorite transport, fucking helicopter. I asked for morphine when we touched down, and again in the hospital. Got it both times. Back to the land of the dragon, the motherly arms of tranquility, safe from little girls with hate in their eyes, safe from an evil reality. The marlin broke the surface as he ran with the drag. I countered with more drag. He threatened to break the line as I loosened the pull and checked my reserve. Damn, less than 30 feet. Ever so slowly I tightened the drag, knowing that from here on in it was me against him. No more mechanical gimmicks, just strength against strength. I leaned back hard, then reeled as I leaned forward, gaining about 12 inches of line with my surge. The fight went on. For about 3.5 hours, I fought that 400-plus pound fish. Every muscle in my body ached. He was still about 20 feet out and down deep. Then the line slackened, and I wondered if I'd lost him. No, he was making a run in, and then would veer off at some tangent with full throttle to try and break my line. I loosened the drag a bit, leaned forward, and anticipated the moment. Wham! It happened. I let him run another 30 feet out before I tightened the drag. Again, ever so slowly. I was beat. Still we battled on, me for sport, he for survival. I eventually won. But what did I win? A trophy? No. The understanding that I respected that marlin more than myself? Yeah. The lesson? Don't spend energy in a fruitless and futile gesture? Not quite. But I'm getting closer. I know what it is to run for your life. I'm just not sure if it's worth running for yet. And still, Poet runs.